Hey guys, so in today's video, I'm just gonna be doing a quick video on how I render lips. So I gotta disclaim, this is not a guide on how to draw them or get the shapes or anything necessarily. It's more so just getting that high gloss effect. It's something that I've been requested to do a tutorial on for quite some time now, and I finally got over my fear of trying to do a voiceover tutorial. And so this is my first attempt. Please have mercy. So jumping right into the video, you see here that I just put like a basic outline to give me a rough idea of the shape of the lips. And then, as you can see, I proceed to put a base color down. I always like to put like a base down so that there's no transparency underneath when I start rendering. I used to just start rendering on top of everything and I forgot to put a base down, and so sometimes when I would hide layers, there would be this weird inconsistency in the transparency. And I know it's probably like a beginner thing, but I just figured I'd point it out because I used to not do it and it would be like a huge mistake. Moving forward, I begin to block out the gray tones in the lips. So the skin will have a lighter gray, the lips will have a darker gray, and the inside of the lips will have an even darker gray. So it kind of just simplifies things from a beginning standpoint before you start adding more and more detail. It just slowly builds up. So far, I've established the main values that distinguish the parts of the lips for myself. Now I can move on to detail and adding more tones of gray in between the other ones that I've previously established. By the way, this is another preferential thing, but I like to merge my render layer with my line art layer because I like the messy look. Not everyone is into this, but it's just something I tend to do. So if you see me do that, that is why. Continually rendering, just making sure that you add shadow in the places it's appropriate to give depth to the lips. Make sure you put shadow at the top of the lips and one at the bottom, and even one right above the teeth, the part that's under the lip, because you want to give off the illusion of depth. Don't forget to do that, guys. So after continuing with my favorite blocking brush that I typically use, which by the way you can find in the description box below, I begin to switch to the default airbrush tool to blend out the values and soften them, because you don't want them to be too harsh unless, I mean, that's the look you're going for, but I'm not. So I start to smooth out my values at this stage. Sometimes when I feel like my values are getting too harsh in one place, I'll take an airbrush and I will just do an entire like medium gray wash over the entire thing to kind of even it out a little bit if there's too much contrast, because sometimes when I leave too much contrast, once I apply color, the values can start looking muddy and no one wants that. I mean, unless you do though, like, yeah, but yeah, nah, that ain't the wave though. At this point, you can see I'm starting to add more highlights. I usually try to reserve adding highlights to be one of the like last things I do, because it's really important to get that super hyper gloss effect that I love so much. Making sure I put it around the cupid's bow of the lips and the lower part of the mouth, the creases of the lips on the sides. It can really create like a dramatic effect and help distinguish the lips from the rest of the face. There's also little details like highlighting the bottom of the teeth, because teeth have a sort of, I would say, subsurface scattering to them, or like it's like, you know, when you put something up to light and you can see through it a little bit, or it has like a glow. Teeth have that. So when I draw teeth, I usually put like a harsh white highlight near the bottoms of them to kind of give off that effect a little bit, and sometimes exaggerate it. At this point, I'm just softening up the values more and adding more depth. We're trying to push out the shape of the lips by adding more highlight in the middle parts of the lips.
Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich.
And so for my very favorite part of drawing pretty much eyes and lips really is the highlights. I just start a new layer and I turn the hardness all the way up on my brush. I turn the pressure settings off and I just draw with a tapered brush. So I typically just take my blocking brush and I just turn on shape dynamics to make it pointed. You can use the default pointed brush as well if you want to for this. It doesn't really matter, it's just my preference. And then you just put selective highlights in certain parts of the lips that you want to emphasize. You don't want to use too many. I think the less you use, the glossier the lips can appear in certain areas. And obviously like having a reference of glossy lips is helpful to have on the side. I had one as well for checking how I highlighted the lips. And yeah. In addition to the first pass of gloss highlights I created with the 100% opacity harsh highlight, I created a second layer with a softer highlight and then I cut it to create like a sharp contrast between the rest of the lips. And you can see that when I use the airbrush and then erase parts of it off. And it just creates like a really nice gradient on certain parts of the lips where you want to create that highlight. And then from this point on, I just use my usual coloring process, which I'll probably be making a whole other video for that. Basically, I use gradient maps on top of color, and no, I don't rely on just one blending mode for the color. So please keep that in mind when you color this method. You don't have to just use the literal blending mode color. You can use various ones and layer them on top of each other to keep the colors from looking dead. And that's what I do typically. And so further on at this point, I've kind of just going back after seeing what the thing looks like with color on top of it and adding values as I see fit and correcting them and whatnot.
I should like to help everyone in Glossy. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich.
And I kind of liked the bleeding fade that the color looks like on the lips, so I kind of left it like that on purpose. I personally like it, and I chose like an orange color because it's summer, because why not? So yeah, that I think concludes my lip tutorial. I hope it was helpful. I would appreciate any feedback you guys might have for me on how to improve at these in the future, because again, this was my first attempt, so I am a little nervous, I won't lie. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.